Hello, I feel like we are finally properly in autumn. Today was a crisp morning. The sun has been shining, no rain, nothing, just like, you know, the perfect autumn day where it's cold but not like freezing. My August and September reading wrap up is definitely overdue, so sorry about that. I read 7 in total. I did start one book that I haven't finished yet, but yeah, let's just talk about the ones that I actually completed. I had a pretty good 2 months. I have 2 5-star reads for you, which if you have followed me for a long time, then you know I rarely give out a 5-star. It has to really like touch me as a person, even if it's like amazing writing, an amazing story. If I don't feel a certain way, it's not getting 5 stars. So starting with The Satsuma Complex by Bob Mortimer. This story is about a man who, he's really boring and a bit weird. He meets his mate at the pub, they have a chat. After that, he talks to this woman at the pub, doesn't catch her name, but then the next day he finds out that his friend has gone missing. The only way that he can kind of get information about it is to track down this lady that he met at the pub. So yeah, it's a little mystery. It is also a comedy at the same time, so very similar to Thursday Murder Club, but I would say this is not as good. I think originally I gave it a 3-star, but I'm gonna take that down to 2.75. It is a solid book. I do remember having a little giggle every now and again, and definitely the whole way through I was kind of like, who is it? Who is the bad guy in this? But at the same time, it was nothing special. I think I had my expectations quite high because I wanted it to be like the Thursday Murder Club, and also Bob Mortimer is like a pretty famous British comedian, and so I thought it was gonna be like really funny. It was a pretty complex mystery. There was quite a graphic ending that I wasn't expecting, but I did quite like the characters in this. I'm very much a person who's driven by characters and plot rather than like writing style. Along his little journey, the guy meets this old lady and they form a little alliance slash friendship, and she's just really funny and sweet, but their dynamic was really fun to read. But overall I wouldn't say it was groundbreaking. I don't want to shit on it too hard because it wasn't that bad. I definitely think I did just set my expectations a bit too high for that one. Next up though, I've got my first 5-star book, and that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This is a beautiful book. It's such a lovely story. This is about a children's home inspector. This is in kind of like a semi-magical world, so there's humans and then there's magical beings, but this inspector goes to the house in the Cerulean Sea to check if it's running smoothly and if the children are okay. And the thing about the children in the house, the humans are quite scared of them. That is why they're kind of shunned away. The inspector is a bit nervous to go, especially because one of the children there is actually the son of Satan. You can probably guess the inspector goes and realizes that the children aren't as scary as they're made out to be, and he forms like a really lovely bond with everyone there. It's kind of a fable. Is that right? A fable? There's a moral to the story. Even though some people may be so completely different to who you are, doesn't mean that you should be afraid of them. If you just get to know them, then you'll realize that they're just the same as you are. If you're looking for a kind of cozy autumn read, then I think this is actually a good one. It's very heartwarming. The children are all just so cute. Like, they're so silly and funny without even meaning to be. You'll end up having this love for this little house, and I rated it 5 stars, which is kind of crazy for me. But yeah, I'm super excited to read Under the Whispering Door. I've heard it's not as good, but it will still be really good even if it's not as good as this, so I'm still gonna read it. And something else that I'm really like happy about with this book is that it's signed by TJ Klune. Next, we took a little bit of a dip, and that is with You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. I've rated this 3 stars. We follow the story of this woman who hasn't been in a relationship for, I think it was like 5 years or something, because her husband was killed in a car accident. And so obviously she's still recovering from that, emotionally and physically. We jump into the action on a night where she actually is having sex for the first time in 5 years with this random guy in a bathroom. This guy, she meets him at a party, and yeah, they take it to the bathroom. She starts seeing this guy kind of off and on, nothing serious. She's just kind of having fun and getting back into the swing of dating. But then she meets one of his friends and he really likes her, and I think she really likes him, but she's not really sure. They kind of start seeing each other. This new guy invites her to his family home, but he lives on like an island in the Bahamas or something like that. She barely knows this guy, and then she flies out to see his family, and then while she's there, you'll never guess what, but she meets another guy. Somehow this relationship is even more complicated than the last, so you're not really sure whether it's morally okay. Personally, I would never get myself involved in something like this. One of the things that annoyed me though is that she really does fall in love with this third guy so quickly, to the point that it's not believable. And I also don't really like the relationship. Besides the fact that you don't really get much build up, I just don't think it's an okay relationship to have. And so the whole time I was like, I don't support this, so I don't really enjoy reading about it. She's being very messy, and I don't think it's fair on a lot of the people that she involves. I'd say some of the only redeeming parts of it were the sex scenes, to be fair, like were quite good, and also her best friend back home. Like I really liked her character. She was kind of the voice of reason, but otherwise I can't say I enjoyed this. And I'm so shocked because Jack Edwards rated it 4 stars, and that's kind of why I even picked this up. I don't know where he got that from. 3 might even be a bit generous, but I'm gonna leave it at that. Then it was the start of September and I went on holiday to France, so I brought 4 books with me for my week holiday because I was like, I'm gonna get so much reading done. And I did. I read them all. Starting off with The Maid by Nita Prose. This is a story about a maid who walks in on a dead body in a room that she's trying to clean. And from then on, she's involved in this investigation because obviously she found him. Yeah, there's lots of suspects. You're never really sure who it is. The best thing about it is that she is very different to everyone else, in the sense that she's so blunt in the way that she talks that it's a little bit funny. She kind of gets herself into sticky situations because she doesn't really understand some social cues, and maybe that she shouldn't say certain things at certain times. There's a lot of kind of sub mysteries to the main one, so you're always kind of interested in something. My favorite character is definitely the doorman. He's just really sweet and nice, and I always feel safe when he is in the picture. The ending I think did make sense. I wasn't super shocked or anything. I think there might be a second one of these coming out, so I look forward to that. I rated this 4 stars, by the way. I don't even know if I said that. Again, took a little bit of a dip. I read this book, Insatiable by Daisy Buchanan. I've rated this one 3 stars, and it's marketed as a love story for greedy girls. I would not call it a love story, and I also wouldn't call the main character greedy. I would call her pretty damaged. She's got a lot of issues. She was taken advantage of. So yeah, I will put like a blanket trigger warning on this. There's a lot of questionable things that come along with this, mainly that she's pretty much groomed into this relationship with a couple. She meets this woman at a party and they talk about art. This woman decides that she wants to possibly employ Violet, and so a few days later they have a meeting with the older woman and her husband because they have the business together. And during this interview, the older woman is very like touchy-feely with Violet, very inappropriate. And then when they leave, she actually kisses Violet on the mouth, but she does it so casually that it's kind of like, oh, was it a mistake, or did she mean to do that? Violet's really confused. She doesn't really know what's going on. So yeah, this couple, they're playing games and tricks with her mind. Like, it is so predatory, but when you get to like the sex scenes, it's really hot. I'm talking about this and I'm thinking, what the fuck? Is there something wrong with me in the fact that I found this very hot? I don't know. It's very strange. Every time that they kind of have a night together, Violet never feels like fulfilled afterwards, but she then, I think she wants to prove herself to them and she really wants them to love her. And then it gets even worse because they invite her to this kind of group sex thing, which gets even more complicated and even more like questionable. Basically, it's really weird. There's a lot of sex, a lot of group sex, and the ending is super weird. Definitely don't think it made sense and I don't think it was necessary. One thing about it that I did like was the way that it was written. I thought it was quite funny. Like Violet says some very relatable things that kind of added the lightness that was needed because everything else is so like low tone. It's groomy, it's manipulative, it's a little bit fucked up. Read this with caution. Now on to my favorite book in this whole collection. We're taking it back up to 5 stars with Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I think I actually rated this 4.5 stars when I read it. I don't know why, because when I think about it now, it's an immediate 5 stars, like so easily. I think I rated it 4.5 stars because it was about tennis and I don't really like tennis. But somehow Taylor made me care about tennis because this was so well researched. I didn't know anything about tennis really before I started reading it, but it was all explained in such a natural way. This is about Carrie Soto, who is a major tennis player. She was the best woman of her time. I'm pretty sure she won like the most grand slams in this fictional world. Then she kind of injures herself and decides to retire. About 10 years later, another woman is about to take her title with the most grand slams. Carrie doesn't want to let it go. She doesn't want someone to beat her, so she starts training again with her dad. You go through the Australian Open, the US Open, Wimbledon, and also the French Open. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing. There's something about it which is so easy and engaging. I love how all of her characters kind of cross over into each of the books. It's kind of half reality and half all made up. So as a reader, you do feel very immersed in the world. But as you can imagine with a Taylor Jenkins Reid book, there is some romance, rivalry, there's definitely some tragedy, which my god did I cry when I read it. It was such a shock actually, I wasn't expecting it. But any book that can make me cry, that's quite a big deal. If you're thinking a book about tennis, it's so much more than that. Malibu Rising is my favorite one. I might say this is my second favorite. I love Daisy Jones and Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but I still think this might be better. I really want you to read it. On to the last book, which unfortunately did take a massive dip and we're actually at the bottom of the barrel right now. I read It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. And I did say I was never going to read a Colleen Hoover book ever again, but it was in the supermarket, it was £4. I've already read the first one. I kind of feel like I should read the second one just to see how it ends. The new movie's gonna come out soon. I just picked it up as a silly beach read. I rated it 2.5 stars. Maybe 2 stars actually. It wasn't good. I read It Ends With Us when I was 17 years old, I think, and I loved it. At the time, I thought it was amazing. I thought it was really sexy. Looking back, it's actually a story about abuse and I should not have really enjoyed it as much as I did. I think reading after, when I was 14 and 15, definitely shaped how I thought fictional men should be. At the time, I thought it was really kind of hot when a man is so like aggressive and loves you so much that he can't control his emotions. Oh god, just thinking about it now I'm like, ugh. It is not attractive when a man can't control his anger and hits you or says really abusive things to you or tries to control you, and I really wish that people would stop writing books in that way where there's kind of the blurred line between whether it's nice or not. And I definitely was changed by reading those books so young. So this one wasn't much better because he's still just as abusive as he was in the last ones. Like, he's trying to get better, he's trying to do better, but he's not. They have a child together now and they are trying to work it out and how to co-parent. I just don't understand why she never reported him to the police. I know that's easy for me to say, and I know that a lot of domestic violence victims are too afraid to do so, or even if they do, nothing's done about it. It's so much harder done than said. But in a fictional book, I really wish she had just reported him and done something about it rather than let him see her daughter. He's abusive, he can't control his anger, and you're gonna let him around a literal baby. I don't like that. I think that's pretty irresponsible. Atlas, the guy from her past who was like her first love when she was a girl, he comes back into her life, and that's another added stress because her ex-husband hates Atlas. The only part that I liked was Atlas's, I think, half brother or something comes into his life. He didn't know he had a brother, but here he is, and he's trying to protect this young boy from his mother. She's a nightmare, and I really liked that dynamic, and that's the only redeeming quality I would say of this book. And one of the worst things about the book, besides the abusive man, was definitely that his sister and brother-in-law know exactly what he did to Lily but still have him in their lives. No one has condemned him for almost killing her. Like, why is no one outraged? I don't know if people are just more forgiving than me. Should I be more forgiving? I don't know. Personally, if someone like threw me down the stairs, I would never want to see them again. I swear to God, from now on, I will not be reading Colleen Hoover. I can't be bothered. It's not worth it. Finishing off on a 2.5, I'd say probably like 2.25, 2 star, whatever. So those were the 7 books that I read in August and September. Let me know if you've read any of them, which ones were your favorite, which ones did you not like. If you want more book content, then go over to my TikTok and my Instagram. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.